Biomed, Nexus Daily. Updates your essential biotech, medtech, and pharma recap. No noise, just what matters. TLDR. The Supreme Court issued a one-week administrative stay on Monday, temporarily blocking a Fifth Circuit ruling that had reinstated in-person dispensing requirements for Mifepristone nationwide. Justice Alito's order restores mail and telehealth access through May 11th. Briefs are due Thursday. The underlying question whether federal courts can override FDA regulatory decisions on drug access has implications for every company with an FDA-approved REMS. Novo Nordisk, NVO, reports Q1 2026 earnings tomorrow, May 6th. This is the most anticipated pharma earnings report of the quarter. First official oral Wegovy revenue numbers, Ozempic Wegovy injectable trends, and commentary on the balance delay and Foundayo competition. Passage Bio cut approximately 75% of its workforce after the FDA requested changes to its clinical trial design, according to Biospace. DDW Digestive Disease Week wraps today in San Diego. ASCO is 26 days away, May 31st, plenary, Revolution Medicines. Executive takeaway, the Mifepristone ruling matters far beyond reproductive health. On Friday, the Fifth Circuit reinstated a nationwide in-person dispensing requirement for Mifepristone, overriding the FDA's own determination that the drug can be safely prescribed via telehealth and mailed to patients. Danco Laboratories and GenBioPro appealed to the Supreme Court within hours. On Monday morning, Justice Alito issued a one-week administrative stay, restoring mail and telehealth access through May 11th, while the full court considers the case. Stats Grace Colon, CEO of Omnipulse Biosciences, wrote that the ruling is bad for healthcare access, and it's also bad for innovation. She is right. The core legal question is whether a federal court can substitute its judgment for the FDA's on how an approved drug should be dispensed. If upheld, the precedent would mean that any state could challenge FDA access decisions, from REMS modifications to telehealth prescribing to pharmacy distribution, through litigation rather than the established regulatory process. For pharma, this creates uncertainty around any product where dispensing flexibility is part of the commercial model. For patients, it means access to approved medicines could vary based on which federal circuit they live in. For the FDA, it means the agency's scientific authority over drug access is no longer unquestioned. Meanwhile, Novo Nordisk reports tomorrow. First oral Wegovy revenue. First official read on competitive dynamics against Foundayo, the most watched earnings print of the quarter. Read, full analysis what to watch. SCOTUS Mifepristone. Timeline briefs due. Thursday, May 7th, Alito's stay expires May 11th. The full court will then decide whether to extend the stay or let the Fifth Circuit ruling take effect. If it takes the case on the merits, oral arguments could come in the fall. Novo Nordisk Q1 earnings, tomorrow, May 6th. First oral Wegovy revenue. Ozempic cheat Wegovy injectable revenue trends. GLP-1 supply chain commentary. Balance delay impact. Foundayo competitive read. 2026 guidance update. FDA REMS exposure. If the Fifth Circuit precedent holds, every FDA-modified REMS is potentially vulnerable to state-level legal challenges. Companies with recently modified dispensing rules, telehealth expansion, pharmacy access, home administration should be evaluating exposure. ASCO countdown, 26 days. Revolution Medicines, plenary session, May 31st. Full phase. 3 Resolute 302 data, policy and public health. Mifepristone gets a one-week reprieve from the Supreme Court. What happened? On Friday, May 1st, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals issued a unanimous ruling reinstating a nationwide in-person dispensing requirement for Mifepristone, the medication used in approximately 60% of abortions in the U.S. The ruling, written by Judge Stuart Kyle Duncan, appointed by President Trump, agreed with Louisiana's argument that telehealth access to Mifepristone undermines the state's abortion ban. The order took effect immediately, disrupting access for patients and providers across the country, including in states where abortion is legal. On Saturday, Danco Laboratories, brand Mifepristone, and GenBioPro, generic, filed emergency appeals with the Supreme Court. Danco said the ruling injects immediate confusion and upheaval into highly time-sensitive medical decisions. GenBioPro said it has unleashed regulatory chaos. On Monday morning, Justice Samuel Alito issued an administrative stay blocking the Fifth Circuit's order through May 11th. He ordered Louisiana and the FDA to file briefs by Thursday, May 7th. The FDA, which has been conducting its own review of Mifepristone's REMS since July 2025, has not yet publicly responded to the Fifth Circuit ruling. The industry implications: Mifepristone has been FDA-approved since 2000 and has been used by more than 7 million patients. The FDA determined in 2023 that in-person dispensing requirements were no longer medically necessary based on decades of safety data. The Fifth Circuit overrode that determination. STAT published an op-ed on Monday arguing the ruling threatens the broader pharmaceutical industry. The author, Omnipulse Biosciences CEO Grace Colon, wrote, "If drug developers and investors cannot rely on a predictable, science-based FDA process to govern how products reach patients, they will be far more hesitant to move forward, especially in areas that could become politically contested. The precedent is the concern. If one state can use litigation to override FDA dispensing decisions for Mifepristone, the same legal theory could be applied to any drug with politically sensitive uses, from GLP-1s for weight loss, already contested in Medicare coverage debates, to vaccines, already under political pressure, to psychedelic therapies, recently granted CNPVs by the FDA. The Guttmacher Institute noted that telehealth provision of Mifepristone accounted for 91,000 abortions to states with total bans in 2025 alone. Corporate and Business Development's Passage Bio cuts 75% of workforce after FDA trial design. Request, PSGB Passage Bio cut approximately 75% of its workforce after the FDA requested changes to its clinical trial design, according to BioSpace. The gene therapy company had been developing treatments for rare neurological diseases. The layoffs reflect the challenge facing small gene therapy companies when FDA feedback forces costly protocol redesigns that exceed available funding. The week ahead tomorrow, May 6th, Novo Nordisk Q1 earnings, first oral Wegovy revenue. May 6th, Royalty Pharma Q1 earnings. May 7, SCOTUS Mifepristone briefs, due. May 11th, Alito's administrative stay on Mifepristone expires. May 11th, Daiichi Sankyo, delayed earnings, tariff impact. May 12 to 14, Fierce Biotech Week, Boston. May 19th, RBC Global Healthcare Conference, New York. May 29th, FDA RTCT, public comment period, closes May 29th to June 2nd, ASCO Annual Meeting, Chicago. May 31st, ASCO Plenary, Resolute 302, full data, RVMD, read, full analysis Biomed, Nexus Pro Institutional Intelligence Brief, the precedent problem. The Mifepristone case is not about abortion for the purposes of this analysis. It is about whether federal courts can override FDA scientific determinations on how approved drugs reach patients. The FDA's regulatory authority over drug access has been the foundation of pharmaceutical development for decades. Companies invest billions in clinical development with the understanding that if the FDA approves a drug and sets the conditions for its use, including REMS, dispensing requirements, and distribution channels, those decisions are final unless the FDA itself changes them through established regulatory processes. The Fifth Circuit's ruling breaks that assumption. It says a state can challenge FDA dispensing decisions in federal court, and that judges can reimpose access restrictions the FDA has determined are no longer necessary. If this precedent holds, the regulatory certainty that pharma relies on is diminished. Consider the implications. A state objects to telehealth prescribing of a controlled substance and sues the FDA to reimpose in-person requirements. A state objects to pharmacy distribution of a vaccine and challenges the FDA's approval of that distribution channel. A state objects to the use of a psychedelic therapy and sues to block dispensing. In each case, the Fifth Circuit's logic would give the court authority to override the FDA. For investors and BD teams, this does not change the near-term outlook for any specific company, but it introduces a new category of regulatory risk that has not existed before. Companies should evaluate whether any of their products have dispensing or access provisions that could become politically contested. Novo Q1 preview, the 5 numbers. Oral Wegovy revenue, the most watched number. Novo launched oral Wegovy in January. Weekly TRX hit 18,410 by week 2. What does Q1 revenue look like? 2. Ozempic revenue. The diabetes franchise remains the cash engine. Is growth decelerating as competition intensifies? 3. Wegovy injectable revenue. Has the oral launch cannibalized injectable demand, or is it purely additive? 4. Foundayo commentary. How is Novo positioning against Lilly's oral GLP-1? What is the competitive read on Foundayo's slower launch? REMS exposure. Who is vulnerable? If the Fifth Circuit precedent holds, products with recently modified REMS or expanded access provisions could face state-level challenges. Categories most at risk include medications with telehealth prescribing expansion, GLP-1s, mental health, chronic pain, products with modified distribution channels, specialty pharmacy to retail pharmacy transitions, vaccines with expanded administration settings, and psychedelic therapies recently granted CNPVs. The immediate risk is low. SCOTUS is likely to stay or reverse the ruling, but the legal theory is now established in the Fifth Circuit and could be cited in future cases. Catalyst calendar, May 2026, forward date event tickers. Tomorrow, Novo Nordisk Q1 earnings, first oral Wegovy revenue, NVO May, 6 Royalty Pharma. Q1 earnings RPRX May, 7 SCOTUS Mifepristone briefs, Judanco, GenBio Pro May 11 Alitos, Mifepristone stay, expires N May 11 Daiichi, Sankyo delayed earnings, tariff impact, DSNKY May, 12th 14 Fierce Biotech Week, Boston. Multiple May, 19 RBC Global Healthcare Conference, New York. Multiple May 29 FDA RTCT Public Comment Period, closes N May 29 to June, 2 ASCO Annual Meeting, Chicago. Multiple May 31 ASCO Plenary, Rasalute, 302, Full Data RVMD late, Q2 Lilly, Foundayo T2D filing under CNPVLY late May, 2026 Commerce, Section 232 Report on Medical Devices expected MDT, BSX, SYK, ISRG Summer, 2026 FDA RTCT Pilot Program, launches, multiple June 2026 Takeda CEO transition, Julie Kim, TAC July 1 Medicare GLP-1 Bridge Program, launches LLY NVOQ3 2026 Teva EmailX, close expected Teva H2 2026 EcoPIPAM, NDA filing expected Teva July 31 Section, 232 Pharma tariffs, effective large companies, multiple H2 2026 Foundayo, T2D regulatory action expected LLY H2 2026 Lilly Kelonia, close expected LLY H2 2026 Ajax proof of concept data, expected LLY H2 2026 Revolution, Medicines CNPV NDA filing expected RVMDH2 2026 Novo, Nordisk weekly US launch, first weekly insulin, NVO mid, 2026 Lilly retatrutide, phase 3 obesity readouts, Triumph program, CLY Sept, 19 Ultragenics, UX111, PDUFA, San Filippo, Type A gene therapy. Ray, Sept 29, Section 232 Pharma tariffs, effective all other companies, multiple deck, 7 Lilly investment community, meeting LLY end of 2026 PHRMA CEO transition NA, visit the Pro, Hub read. Full article, is your company listed in the Biomed Nexus directory? 204 companies across 14 categories. Claim or upgrade your listing. Sponsorship slots for 2026 are limited. See packages and pricing